officials in LA are preparing for yet another day of demonstrations. The curfew instituted last night could take effect again in just hours. More than 200 people were arrested last night, mostly for failing to disperse. The LAPD says 2 officers were injured and several businesses were looted. And in just an hour, the LA District Attorney expected to announce new protest-related charges. A short time ago, LA's Mayor Karen Bass held a press conference to call for an end to immigration raids, saying that's what's responsible for what she described as the problems occurring now.
This was provoked by the White House. The reason why, we don't know. I posit that maybe we are part of a national experiment to determine how far the federal government can go in reaching in and taking over power from a governor, power from a local jurisdiction, and frankly, leaving our city and our citizens, our residents, in fear.
So these protests began in LA, but we're now seeing them spread to more than a dozen cities. And as that plays out, President Trump is defending his decision to federalize the California National Guard.
I'm able to do things now that I wouldn't have been able to do because the previous president and presidency was so bad that anybody looks good. I can be stronger on an attack on Los Angeles.
Yes.
Okay? I think bringing in the National Guard 4 years ago or 8 years ago would have been more difficult.
So President Trump made that decision to deploy not just thousands of National Guard troops, but also hundreds of Marines without the consent of California's governor, Gavin Newsom. A military spokesperson confirms to CNN those Marines are still undergoing training and they've not yet hit the streets of LA. Still, Newsom last night cast this decision in sweeping, dramatic terms.
This is about all of us. This is about you. California may be first, but it clearly will not end here. Other states are next. Democracy is next. Democracy is under assault before our eyes. This moment we have feared has arrived.
So that framing and taking on the president directly seems pretty welcome in the Democratic Party, a party that has been frankly struggling to find a charismatic leader and effective message since at least Trump's election in November. Multiple sources tell CNN other Democratic governors have been calling Newsom to talk through how what's happened in California might unfold in their own states. And this showdown, of course, creating an opportunity not just for Newsom to build his 2028 credentials. You can quite literally see him doing that on your screen, but also for President Trump and his allies to try to define Newsom years before our next presidential election is set to kick off.
Those images of foreign flags being waved with, by illegal criminals and by violent rioters in the face of cars blowing up and of flames in the city. I have photos of that here to show you with this violence and destruction that occurred is an image that Governor Gavin Newsom owns. This is his city.
All right, my panel's here, and we're also joined by CNN's Nick Watt on the ground in LA. Kristen Holmes is outside the White House, and CNN Chief Law Enforcement and Intelligence Analyst John Miller standing by for us in New York. Nick, I do want to start with you. Our viewers can see it's, you're in the place where it's all unfolding. What have you seen today? What do officials there expect tonight?
Well, Casey, we are outside the detention center, the federal detention center that has been the focus of the demonstrations. And right now it is pretty chill. I would say a dozen, maybe 24 protesters, very quiet, and National Guardsmen, who you can see here, very different posture from yesterday. There are far fewer of them, and also they do not have their riot shields. Very chill for now, but it is just lunchtime here in LA. Now, what happens tonight? Well, listen, that in part depends on this political standoff that's way above the heads of everybody here. Mayor Bass has said, listen, if the ICE raids continue, if we continue to have federal troops in our streets, then maybe we'll need to continue with the curfew, because her argument is that all of these protests are a reaction to what the federal government is doing. She is blaming them. The feds, they say, listen, the raids are going to continue. So that's the standoff, and we've heard that they are in Downey, just a little south of LA. We heard of raids this morning at a Home Depot, at a gym. Apparently an older man was detained outside a house of worship. So listen, Bass says the protests will probably continue, and the feds say the raids are going to continue. Now, last night, a couple of hundred people were arrested during that curfew for failure to disperse. It was all pretty calm process, I have to say. A couple of other people have been charged with felony issues, throwing Molotov cocktails both here downtown and in Paramount over the past few days. More charges, as you say, are expected to come. And there was a very interesting comment from the mayor of Huntington Park, who spoke this morning. He is a Marine veteran, served in Iraq, and he had a message for the Marines who have been deployed here to LA. He said, remember, when you swore an oath, you didn't swear an oath to a dictator, to a tyrant, or to a president. You swore an oath to the people. That was his message to those troops. We have not seen the Marines out yet so far, and as I say, the National Guard presence today, Casey, is a lot lower than it was yesterday. But listen, it's early. Let's see how it shakes out. If that curfew kicks in again, that'll be 8 p.m. tonight through 6 a.m. again. But right now, very different situation here than there was this time yesterday. Let's see what happens. Casey?
Yeah, Nick, I was going to say, when we were speaking to you yesterday and then also to our colleague Aaron Burnett, things were a lot more active than they look in your live shot right now. I'm sure you'll bring us anything that may unfold in your location as we go through the hour. But Kristen, I want to ask you about the White House. They were asked about Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem's request to have the military do some of the arrests of these protesters, which is, of course, not how this typically works. How did they respond?
Yeah, and not just, Casey, how it doesn't typically work. There's no real legal authority for that to happen, particularly at this juncture. And the White House, while they do push the envelope, they are aware of where the legal boundaries lie. And that's likely why, or at least in part, why you heard Carolyn Leavitt, when she was asked about this letter, really deflect on that question. Take a listen.
I can't speak for the president and what's currently happening on the ground now. And as you know, the president federalized the National Guard under U.S. Code 10, which he has the authority to do. And our United States Marines and the National Guardsmen and women who are on the ground right now are helping to create a peaceful environment for ICE and Border Patrol.
Now, just because she did not answer the question about Kristi Noem asking for the military to help with these arrests does not mean that the administration as a whole is not really putting their foot down and doubling down on this idea that the National Guard should be in place. You heard Pete Hegseth saying that they might look into preemptively putting the National Guard in other areas where there are protests. You also heard Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, earlier today saying they're not scared to use escalation in Los Angeles. So as a whole, they have doubled down on this idea that they deserve to be there, that it's the right thing to do to be there. And obviously, we heard Carolyn Leavitt saying the same thing we've heard over and over again, that LA needed them to come in and be this presence in order for them to get to the place they are now.
So John Miller, you obviously have so much law enforcement experience here. Can you help us understand how a police force reacts to the idea that the active duty U.S. military would come in and conduct arrests, which is, of course, their responsibility?
So, Casey, we are literally in uncharted territory here. And I say uncharted meaning, yes, there have been times, many in the course of history, where a governor has activated the state's, National Guard detachment and said, we have a riot, we have a flood, we have whatever it is where we need that help. And the governor, under Title 32, has the ability to confer a lot of state authorities to them and how they can act. Whereas under Title 10, the president is federalizing them as military. This is where we get into the confusing area. Today, Major General Scott Sherman, who is the head of the Task Force 51 that's being deployed in Los Angeles, said, unlike what the mayor said the other day, which is they're just here to protect federal property and federal buildings, said they will be accompanying agents out on their investigations, on their search warrants, on their arrests, and that they are not performing a law enforcement function, that they are there providing protection for the agencies and their personnel at work and also in the field. Here's the rub with that, Casey, which is if you're providing protection for them and they end up getting in some assault, in some confrontation with a group if someone is armed and they're there providing protection, and they what? They detain somebody. Are they not making an arrest if they have to use force or deadly force or have to shoot somebody? Are they not taking police action? Is that the military in the streets taking police action? That's where we're on very brittle ground here, and I'll tell you exactly what he said. They do not do any arrests. They are, now follow me here, they are strictly here to detain, to wait for law enforcement to come and handle those demonstrators. So once, under our law, once you're not free to go, once you're being detained, you are technically under arrest. So they're waiting for law enforcement to come and charge them. The point is, a lot of lines are being crossed here, and it's irking law enforcement, it's irking the elected officials, and the policy is not quite clear.
Well, you are crystal clear, John Miller. Thank you very much for that.